started. We've got a couple more that texted me or emailed about traffic, and we'll catch them up. So, is this volume okay?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Sounds
All right,
great.
good. Well, welcome. I'll go over safety rules and course information, but first I just want to say how excited I am and how happy I am. This is going to be, this race is sort of like the culmination of everything that I've been working for and toward over the years, putting on different open water swims. And I recognize so many faces in here, and it's because of you guys that we can do this. So I really, I'm full of gratitude, and I wanted to thank you guys for that. So give yourself a hand. I want to recognize someone in here. She's been a mentor to me. My first marathon swim was in 2010. When did you start your swim, Kathleen?
2011.
11. So maybe it was 2000. I was the second year, so 2012. So Kathleen runs the swim around Charleston, which I want her. She can say a couple words about. And I did that race 5 years straight, I think, and she runs a great event. And she really helped me think through these races as we started small and kind of added events and whenever I have a question. So Kathleen, stand up and say something about the swim around Charleston, which is sort of the end of the season. It's a really nice bookend to this race. So,
Thank you, Doug.
do you want the microphone? Here you go.
I got balls. Yeah, that's okay.
Yep,
We'll use the mic. Anyhow, thanks very much. Swim Around Charleston is now in its 14th, 15th year, something like that. Race date this year is Sunday, September 14th. It's always on a Sunday because I can't get boaters on Saturday with college football games and fishing tournaments. So it's always been a Sunday. 12.5-mile swim, tide says fairly, this year will be warm water, it'll probably be around 8, so prepare. Anyhow, it's a great event. These events I think are going to be very similar. But Doug's been instrumental. We have some beautiful footage of him with dolphins in the Ashland River. The year that they came to see him, and they were like within 10 feet.
Yeah, they were.
They came right up to you and asked you how you were doing.
They did.
And before I relinquish this, just a heads up, we've got a new event in Charleston this November. It's through the Navy SEAL Foundation. These special operators just have a place in my heart. And so I'm working with the SEAL Foundation. It's only a 4-mile swim in Charleston, but it's the most beautiful 4 miles of the Swim Around Charleston course. It's pricey. The entry fee is $2,000, but it is a fundraiser. It's wetsuit mandatory. All these SEAL events sell out too, so there are people come in from all over. Wetsuit mandatory unless you come see me and I know how you swim. So a heads up on that one. I'll send Doug information. We'll push it out. But thanks so much for hosting this event tomorrow.
Yep. Thanks, Kathleen. So, and Kathleen's got sharks at her races, so I don't have any sharks, but they don't bother anybody. All right, so let's go through some safety notes. This will take 5 or 10 minutes, and you can ask me any questions after, or email me or text me, but just to go through some of this, and then the great ladies from Mount Holly Historic Society will say a few words, show a video, and then Brandon's here. Brandon's our river keeper. Say hey to Brandon over there. So we got some big shots in here today. All right, safety headlines. Every swimmer must stay with your kayak. All right. The only exception is going to be if your kayaker needs to pull over to pee. Or some other reason like that, they're going to check in with you, the swimmer. You can keep swimming while they do that. It's pretty clear. We're going to have boats stretched out along the river, and we'll have eyes pretty much on most of you all the time, and we'll kind of know that's what's going on. So except for that occasion, you must stay with your kayaker. Your kayaker can't bail, or quit, or nothing like that. You have to stay with your kayaker. We've got great support from Gaston County Police. We'll have 2 to 3 police boats out there, lights on. We'll have one at the front, one in the middle, one bringing up the rear. We'll also have a pontoon boat out there as well, plus a jet ski. So we're pretty well equipped. If there's anything goes wrong. We did have a storm last year at Oak Crud, and we're able to extract everybody quickly if that happens. If you decide to end your race early, that's a phrase I took from Kathleen. If your day is going to end early, you must notify a race official. Me, the police, If you don't notify anybody and you're gone, they will initiate a search and rescue for you. All right? So if you remember nothing else, you cannot leave the race and not tell somebody. All right? That's a big deal, because safety is priority. All swimmers in, all swimmers out. You can end your day early. It's totally fine to swim another day. Probably everyone in here has done that. That's fine. Just let me know. Let us know. All right? We're getting phone numbers of kayakers here tonight. If your kayaker isn't here, you don't know the number, we're going to do that in the morning too, to make sure we've got everybody's kayaker number, and you guys have my number, and you have the police post number. Okay? Any questions about that?
I wasn't planning on taking any electronics on a kayak that could fall into a river, never to be seen again.
I would recommend a cell phone, even if it's in a baggie. The course, it's flat water the whole way. I highly doubt you'll lose it. We've also got radios. Well, I can talk to you after. We've got two-way radios too. Okay. I'll talk more about the course in a minute. You could stop. Incidental contact with your kayak is fine. If you need to stop for this race, if you need to touch the bottom and stop, that's fine. You can't do anything that's going to give you a forward assist. All right. I'd rather you be safe at all costs. If you need to grab onto your kayak for a moment, that's fine with me. All right. Safety comes first. I handed out a map to everybody, a small 4x6 card with the mile markers and the short little bullet point description on the back. Give that to your kayaker to take with you. If you look on there, right past mile 4, there's a bridge, and that's where our mandatory check-in is. So that's a little over 4 miles, and you've got to hit that point at 2.5 hours, or we'll pull you from the race. Now, that said, several of you contacted me about an early start at 6:30 to help with that, and we've approved everybody who wants to do that. That is fine. If it's 2.5 hours and you're 100 yards from there and you look fine, I'm not going to pull you from the race. This is really just to make sure you have a successful day. We're pretty much going to be out on the river all day. So our goal is to help you have a successful race. If you're in distress, it looks like you're in distress, you have questions, it's 3 hours at mile 4, we'll have to get you out of the water. There's a boat landing, that is at a boat landing. Our pontoon boat will have a big green inflatable buoy on it. You won't miss us. If you need to get out there, we've got a race. It's Stephanie's husband, Jason. Our race official will be there with a truck that can get you guys out and get you either to the start or the finish. Your race number is going to be marked on you at the start. Every kayaker is going to have a card with your number on it. So when you guys are going to be spread out by the time you get to the checkpoint, but if the kayaker can hold this up, we'll know what the swimmer is, okay? And we'll hand these out tomorrow. Any questions about that? All right, in the category of safety, there's no known predictable water hazards on this section of the river. In fact, the river is clearer than it's been in a long time, because after Helene, the Army Corps of Engineers with FEMA and some contractors did a really big cleanup from Mountain Island Lake Dam up Dutchman's Creek. Brandon, do you know how far down they went down the river for that cleanup? I know they went into Belmont because there were some trees there and they're gone now.
Yeah, I mean, it was a couple of things here and there, but most of the work was upstream of Dutchman's Creek.
Gotcha. Okay. So, in other words, there's no rapids. It may be shallow at points, although the water's high today because of the recent rains. But as far as hazards or obstacles or dams, there's nothing like that. Okay. Any questions about that from the safety side? All right. Let's talk about the fun stuff, the course. It is a beautiful course. It's 10 miles, works out great from the Mount Holly boat landing to the South Point boat landing. Water temp is going to be 75 degrees. Water clarity is, what's the name of this place? Bloody River, right? It's going to be a little low. It's the first roughly half of the course is very fun. There's almost a landmark within sight. You're going to go immediately under 2 bridges. Then you're going to see the Whitewater Center on your left. Then you're going to see I-85. Then another mile, you're going to see that Wilkinson Boulevard Bridge where our boat check-in is. So it's a very fun swim, and that there's always something to be kind of swimming to. After the check-in, not so much. It's still a beautiful swim, but for about 3 miles, the main thing you're going to be looking at is the Allen Steam Station. It's a Duke power plant that was recently, is decommissioned the right word, Brandon?
They're in the act of decommissioning it, they are no longer burning coal.
Okay, so they've made a lot of great electricity, also made a lot of not so great pollution, and they're able to do that. But you're going to see 4 massive towers. I think I either called it a candy cane or a barber pole on the back of that card. There's 4 or 5 towers, 5 towers, and there's big red and white stripes. It's very cool because you're going to see it and feel like, okay, we're getting this done. And then you're going to see it for a long time. Okay, you're like, did that thing move? All right, no, but it's, so after you finally get that out of sight, you're going to start looking for the finish. The finish is going to have another big green buoy on the right on the shore at an overlook, like a fishing kind of a deck along the river. So there's going to be 2 buoys, one at the mandatory check-in / pull-out, one at the end. You're going to stay river right the whole time. You're always going to be within 25 to 50 yards of the shore. That's also generally the best line. There's one spot where if you want to cut a straighter line, that's totally fine with me. I do ask you stay out of the center channel because there will be boats. It's a Saturday, it will be a bit busy. All right, so you need to be staying 25 to 50 yards from shore, always on the right. All right. I hate to say this because somebody will prove me wrong, but you can't get lost. All right. So, current. There is current. You will be going downstream. There could be 0 current. There could be minimal current, and there could be moderate current. And it will, if there is some, it will change. Probably when we start, there'll be no current. Later, you'll probably feel a little bit of a push. Unfortunately, you're starting in a narrow part of the river where you feel the current more. Toward the end, it's wider, and the push will, I wouldn't count on the current to get you to the end. All right? It might be a nice feeling, but that's going to be it. Let's see. That's all I had. Any questions? We don't have we got a smallish group, so any questions from anybody about either the safety side or the course side?
Watches allowed? What? Are watches allowed?
I hadn't thought about that. See, first year here. Watch. What'd you say,
You
Steph?
told someone else they weren't a couple weeks ago. You had thought about it.
Okay, watches are not allowed. Your kayaker will have a watch for your feeds, okay? But no watches allowed to help you with your pace. All right. Yes, ma'am.
And if we paid for a kayak, it will be there for us.
I hope so. Yeah, we've got some extras too. So right after this, we're going to be staging kayaks. If you rented a kayak, you'll have a kayak, paddle, PFDs. We got all sizes for you at the start. So in the morning, everything will be down there ready for you. Good question. Yes, ma'am.
What time do we show up in the morning for the 7 o'clock?
6 a.m.
6 a.m.
Yep.
How about the 6:30?
At 5:45. 5:45. All right. Yes, sir.
What about ad hoc takeout spots along the way, other than that number 4 checkpoint at the end?
As far as for
If you had to get out for some reason.
pretty much the whole way, you can. I wouldn't get out on somebody's property, although technically that easement is probably okay to use. But there's always some natural stretches. It's pretty much, there's little beaches. When I say beach, I mean just like a sandy shore. Yeah.
Okay.
Should be very easy to find.
All right.
And keep in mind, this river, if you're not familiar with it, there's a channel in the middle, and then this 100 yards toward the shore, it's more than likely you'll be able to stand once you hit 10, 20 yards from the banks. Any other questions?
When we go to the bathroom for the kayaker.
Kayaker, you can pull I would bring a Gatorade bottle or plan to pull to the side. Oh, at the mandatory check-in, early pull-out spot, there's porta potties there. It's a public boat landing. They're right there. That would be a great spot to stop and
And the
take a
swimmer could keep swimming.
potty break. Swimmer can keep swimming, yeah. Anything else? Stephanie, anything you want to add?
Yeah, just 2 quick things.
Yep.
At that mandatory spot where we were just talking about where there's the portage on, just fair warning, they're not usually very clean because they're public, but they're there. But we'll also have a jug of water there if anyone needs to stop and fill up your water bottles. We'll have some ice water there. And then I just wanted to add about when you finish, as Doug said, there will be that big green buoy and it's kind of hanging off the dock. Once you hit that buoy, we'll be sort of up on that dock clocking your time. We'll have your kayaker show us that number card like Doug showed you. So once you hit that buoy, you can stop and take all the time you need to get out of the water. After you finish, you do kind of have to go around a little bend and get out on the side over there. So when you see the buoy, just know that you can stop and relax and take your time after that. We'll be up there watching and clocking your finish time right there.
Oh, and on that finish, it's pretty easy to see, but it's a really cool landing. They renovated it, and there's a park, there's a walking area. If you're spectating, and there's a great sight line to the finish. You can see at least a mile up the swimmers coming down. They actually made a swimming area, which is pretty rare for Duke Energy for different reasons. But you'll get out in their little beach there in swimming area, all right, which is very nice. Oh, I left out the best part. My buddy Taiji, who's my partner in crime and all this, he's a great cook. He's going to have something set up there with some pasta salad and hot dogs and some drinks and things. And so you guys can dig in on that. And our school bus, if you've seen it, will be our shuttle. And that shuttle will go, it's going to be every 45 minutes to an hour. So, chill out when you're there. We're not going to be like on some hard, fast schedule. When we get a critical mass of folks, it seats 14 to 18. We'll haul people back up here to the start. Where this restaurant is, this creek runs about 2 miles right above where we start. All right, so you're close by. So the shuttle bus will be leaving and getting you back up here. If you have your own transportation, that's totally fine, but we're happy to drive you as well. Yes, ma'am.
For people who are bringing their own kayaks, is there a way for them to, like, get their kayaks back to the car?
I have no idea. We can help you with that. If we have, we've got a trailer that you may have to wait a little bit later in the day, but we can help you get this back. All right? I was kidding. Yeah, paddle back up. All right, anything else? All right. Oh, yeah. Good question. If you hear something buzzing over your head, there's a videographer with a drone, and so they may be flying around. And he may be asking you guys questions. I told him that marathon swimmers, he didn't know anything about it. They're very interesting people, and they're very talkative. They have this weird sport they do, and they'd love to tell you about it. So they're going to be making a video. So they may ask you questions at the start or the finish, and if his drone is working right, you may hear a buzzing overhead. Good. All right, I want to introduce Camille and Nancy with the Mount Holly Historic Society. We knew we'd do this race, and we reached out to different people, and these two answered and leaned in on this, and that's why we're here, right? And at this great place. And this is Hell or High Water, which, as you'll see, we're going to watch about 20 minutes or so of the documentary called Hell or High Water, the Great Flood of 1916. It was right here on this path, but that's all I'm going to say about it because these guys are going to tell you a little bit about Mount Holly, which is a cool small city, big town, and about the flood. So, here you go.
This sounds like a complicated day tomorrow. But we are so happy to have you here in North Carolina and also in this town, city of Mount Holly. How many of you have never been to North Carolina before? A couple of you there. I am Camille Jessen, and I'm a member of the Mount Holly Historical Society. And you can recognize other members of our group by their name tags. They're a little bit different than yours. Doug, as he said, the event organizer, contacted the Historical Society and asked them to be a part of this swimming event. This welcome time is presented by the museum. Mount Holly has never participated in an event like this, so history is actually being made tomorrow. And we have ordered Carolina blue skies for tomorrow. Our hats are off to you for your tremendous efforts and all the hard work in preparation for this swim. I can't imagine. And we wish each and every one of you your best. Well, since the museum is all about facts and history, I'd like to begin by sharing a few facts about this lovely community, so you'll know a little bit about our city of Mount Holly. Mount Holly is located in the southwestern part of North Carolina. We're a close neighbor to South Carolina. We're 2 hours from the Blue Ridge Mountains and 4.5 hours from the Atlantic Ocean. Those two jewels, the mountains and the ocean, they are certainly treasures for us Carolinians. We're 12 miles from Charlotte's center city. Charlotte is the largest city in North Carolina. And you may have heard of the National Whitewater Center. It sits on the shore of the Catawba River, just across the bridge, where your starting point race is tomorrow. Mount Holly is in Gaston County, and we are the second largest city in Gaston County. Now, a little bit of history about us. Long before there was a town, long before there were European settlers, there was a river. Native Americans who lived along its fertile banks called the river Eswa Toroa, which means the Great One. The original inhabitants were called the Catawba, meaning the people of the river. The earliest European settlers who crossed the Catawba River in this area were Scotch-Irish, Germans, and English. They trekked down the Great Wagon Trail from Pennsylvania by horse and wagon. They came upon the river, and there they began a community. They called it Woodlawn. Word spread quickly and the community grew, and it continues to grow today. It soon became Mount Holly. It got the name Mount Holly not because of an abundance of holly trees, but it was due to the textile connection with Mount Holly, New Jersey. The town was incorporated in 1879. So the town is 146 years old. Today, Mount Holly has a population of over 18,000 people. We have 3 major industries. American Eagle Mills, they produce thread and they sell it internationally. Freightliner is a truck manufacturing plant, and the National Gypsum Company, a producer of building materials. All 3 of those offer jobs to folks in Mount Holly. This building that we are in today is the oldest standing mill building in Gaston County. It was a cotton mill long ago. It's located on the bank of the Dutchman Creek, which flows right down there. And you might want to check it out before you leave. It empties into the Catawba River. This mill was built in 1875, even before the town was incorporated. And this year in March, it celebrated 150 years. So this is a 150-year-old building. It remained a textile mill until 1970. Textile mills were the bread and butter of this populated area. Together, this mill and many others in Gaston County ignited the textile revolution in the South. The mill building was recently purchased by a young couple, Caroline and Robbie Delaney. And today, the building is a Carolina rum distillery. And they sell their rum. You can go to the ABC stores in North Carolina and you will find their rum. I hope you noticed the vats as you came in. They're filled with Carolina rum. After a 2-year, multi-million-dollar renovation of this 3-story building, it opened as Muddy River Distillery last June. So it's been open right at a year. 109 years ago, Western North Carolina experienced a natural disaster. It was July the 5th, 1916. 2 hurricanes within a week of each other, one from the Gulf and one from the Atlantic, collided in the mountains of North Carolina. The rain dropped 26 inches of water over the western North Carolina mountains near Asheville and Hendersonville. It was more rain than anyone in the whole country had ever experienced. The water and hundreds of mudslides took 80 lives. The Swannanoa River became a mile wide, and the French Broad River became 17 feet above flood stage. The flood was labeled the biggest natural disaster in western North Carolina recorded history. Mother Nature dealt a hard blow, not only to our mountain areas, but to the area of the Piedmont, which is where we live. The Great Flood is more than a history lesson. It's also a cautionary tale of how we should live. So this afternoon, we would like to share pictures and dialogue from those who lived this disaster through a documentary called Remembering the Great Flood of 1916. And here's a copy of it. If you're interested, you can find it on the internet. We did edit this documentary due to the length of it, but I want you to listen carefully. The sound at times is slightly muffled, but the visuals will reveal a story of devastation and disaster. The Great Flood of 1916 is known as the flood to end all floods.
Okay, can you hear me okay? All right. So that was not very good. We worked with that yesterday, trying to get that muffler down, but hopefully you heard some of the devastation that happened in 1916. I'm just going to share a little bit with you some eyewitnesses accounts of how it affected Mount Holly in 1916. Of course, Mount Holly was devastated by the floods with rains more than anyone in the country had experienced. We lost our first mill built in Mount Holly in 1848, the Mountain Island Mill. It was located by the Swift Rocky Catawba River. This was a 5-story mill with a Mill Village, housing families who were hard workers in the mill. This mill also had a bell tower that rang when it was time to go to work. And I'd like to share just a little eyewitness portion of that. On Friday, July the 14th, Catawba River overflowed its banks. On Saturday, the water flowed freely into the mill. At 9 o'clock that morning, Willie Autry and Van Underwood took a boat and went into the mill with a chain and closed the gates to the water wheel in a last effort to save the mill. Their effort was in vain. No human efforts could possibly have saved it from destruction. By this time, the river was at its highest flood stage ever known and was completely beyond control. All that could be done was to stay out of reach of the raging waters. On Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, the boiler room was destroyed. At 11 o'clock, the picker room had collapsed. And at 10 o'clock, the baling room had already been washed away. On Sunday night, July 16th, around 11:25, the old bell at the top of the mill rang 3 times before it went under, according to Slim Reinhardt, who worked at the mill. Many years later, a Mount Holly family just out and about along the river, playing in the creek or whatever, they found that same bell and they took it home with them. Not knowing where it came from, they used it in their yard to call their children home for supper. Until one day they discovered that it was the bell from the Mountain Island Mill. They donated this bell to our museum, its rightful place in the room where we share our mill history. According to some other eyewitnesses, during 1916, local boys risked their life and limb for pocket change, pulling out bales of cotton that washed down the river. They were snared in midstream by large trees and bridge timbers. It was said that lots of Indian skeletons washed up in the Beatty's Bottoms area, Catawba Indians, who were the first inhabitants of the river in Mount Holly. The flood washed away our Catawba River railroad trestle, along with rail workers who were trying to strengthen it against the flood waters. Some of the men were rescued clinging to trees downstream, but 19 people died. The Catawba River Bridge, where you would start your swim, was washed away. It was 2 years before a highway bridge would be constructed. But before this, the people had to be satisfied with a ferry service. Then a pine-pole toll bridge was erected. All rail, telephone, and telegraph connections were severed. Many lost their homes, farms, and the livelihood and their lives. Then, last year, September 27th, history repeated itself. If you remember in the film, it was 2 storms that came together in 1916. That same situation happened last year in North Carolina. And it was Hurricane Helene, another Category 4 hurricane, which most of you probably heard about in the news. Our North Carolina mountains are still rebuilding. People are still living in campers or displaced otherwise. From the video, you learned about the mudslides or the landslides that happened after so much rain. And we have had a very rainy spring here. Just a couple of weeks ago, I heard on the news that there have been 17 more mudslides where mud travels straight to the doorsteps of their homes. FEMA is still working in the mountains and in Mount Holly. There have been drones assessing our creeks here in Mount Holly. We have floodplains here also, and homes are still under construction. Mount Holly volunteers and churches still send supplies, clothing, food, heaters, whatever is needed on a regular basis to our North Carolina neighbors. Thankfully, the technology over the years in predicting the weather, the construction of dams, hydroelectric plants, and formation of lakes has lessened the damage to Mount Holly. Our dam is located in the same exact place where the old Mountain Island Mill used to be. Just like in 1916, our folks in the mountain are a resilient bunch. Some may move away, but most just stay and rebuild, knowing that hurricanes are going to happen again and again. So I hope you enjoyed the documentary, what you could hear of it, and the history. And remember that you will be swimming over historical artifacts, from the destruction of the mill, the bridges, the train trestles, where they had mule teams that could not retrieve the boxcars, and maybe a skeleton or two. I'm not sure if you all are going to be resting tonight or you want to go out on the town, because we have some stuff going on in Mount Holly. It's our Mount Holly Friday night concert on Main downtown. It will be going on from 6 to 9 tonight. A band will be performing. They're called Shot Through the Heart, and they will present a Bon Jovi tribute. There will be food trucks, local Main Street shopping, restaurants are open, and there's actually, if you're interested in art, there's an art exhibit on Central Avenue, which is the side street once you cross over the railroad tracks up here to the right. And also, the History Museum is going to be open if you're out and about. Come and see us and see what we have there. You're also welcome to stay here if you want to eat and have food and everything here. So, the swim event on our Catawba River, we think it's the first. We're making history in Mount Holly again. We wish you all the best of luck and a very safe marathon swim in the morning.
Thank you guys so much. Without further ado, Brandon Jones is going to wrap it up. He is the Catawba River Keeper. He is the actual guy. He's the River Keeper. It's an organization. But he's going to talk to us a little bit. By the way, you'll see we got a train trestle on the back of these shirts. A train. You're going to pass two. There's other bridges, but you're going to pass two spots right at the beginning and right about halfway where you just see pylons with no trestle on. Those were train bridges and trestles that were ruined in this flood. So the one right here actually has cars in the water, coal cars underneath it, where they stack them on the bridge to try to keep it from getting washed away. And when it's low, you can go down a couple feet and touch the top of those coal cars, which is pretty wild.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Here's Brandon.
Thank you, Doug. And thank you all for being here today. So again, I'm Brandon Jones, your Catawba River Keeper. That just means I'm an advocate for the Catawba River. And having swimmers, paddlers, kayakers, recreational enthusiasts on the water is absolutely critical to our mission. I mean, there's a lot of people that care where the drinking water comes from and where it goes when they flush. But when you're actually swimming in it for 10 miles, it's going to be really important to you that you have clean water out there. And so again, you guys are our eyes and our ears and some of our most staunch advocates. We have 15 slides. I know between you and sleep or beer or whatever else, but I'll try and move quick. So again, we're a 501c3 nonprofit. We educate and advocate for the entire Catawba Water River Basin. So that starts up in the mountains of North Carolina, over by Asheville, Black Mountain, the Linville Gorge. Then kind of flows due east towards Hickory, and then due south. And we cover all the way into South Carolina near Congaree National Park. Here we go. It's a big basin. It's 26 counties, roughly 8,900 miles of linear streams, 11 reservoirs. We have a staff of like 20. So we need you. We need people out there. Maybe not tomorrow when you're swimming, but in general, if you see something like, hey, like there's a weird pipe over there, or hey, there's a bunch of dead fish, it's really important to tell that to your local advocates, to the state, etc. Question?
Yeah, you also cover Jocassee and Keeley.
Yeah, different watershed. So we are part of the Waterkeeper Alliance. So there's about 350 or so keepers like myself, and we're all based per watershed. So there's like a Broad River Keeper, and a French Broad River Keeper, and a Congaree River Keeper, and I don't let you know about Jocassee. That's a weird basin. So yeah, it's mainly Park Service. Yes. Let's keep going. There we go. So here's kind of a close-up map. So we are kind of near that star right there. So we're actually on Dutchman's Creek, near the Catawba, but also near a major tributary called the South Fork. But this is our entire basin. And so up there in the corner in the back, top left, that's going to be like Asheville, North Carolina. And then all the way down, way just below, kind of where like the whiskey starts, or rum, I guess probably. That's going to be like Columbia, South Carolina. So that kind of gives you an idea. And then we are covered on the eastern side by the Broad River Keeper, the Yadkin Peatty River Keeper, and on the western side by the Broad River Keeper. Then the French Broad and then the New are the ones that are kind of around us. Our organization has a couple different locations, but most of it's focused right here, just down the road, just on the river in McAdenville. We also have an office in Morganton and another office in South Carolina. It's a really big river basin. The problems are not all the same, except one thing. The main cause of all the water quality issues is us, it's people. We have a rapidly developing area, and our laws and regulations and best practices have often not kept up with that rate of growth. So this is one of the fastest growing places in the country. There's a lot more people that are using more water. They're also like leaving a bunch more trash and non-point source pollution on the ground. They're also building more parking lots and impermeable surface. And so whenever we see people, that's when we start to see water quality issues. But with a lot of people comes a lot of potential resources. And so like I said, we're able to have a staff of 20, which is wonderful, and one of the larger riverkeeper organizations. There's a lot of trash out there, but there's also a lot of volunteers. So last year, I think we had roughly 1,400 people come out at different events. We picked up over 100,000 pounds of trash. So you might see some bottles out there tomorrow. Sorry about that. We do most of our cleanups on one day of the year. That's our big river sweep cleanup this fall. So if you happen to be a local and you're around, I'm going to come back on the first Saturday in October. We'll be picking up all those bottles that you see out there today. But usually in one day, in the fall, we can get up about 60,000, 70,000 pounds of trash in plastic bottles, which is like a lot of plastic bottles. A lot is a very scientific term for several dumpster loads. But it's a major challenge, and as the population continues to grow in this area, we see more of that. And it's not like people are just like hucking bottles into the river. I mean, there's like that one guy. But in general, it just like flies out the back of a truck, or like some kid drops it in the parking lot, or whatever, and then it rains, and then it flows into the river. And so we have times of drought, like we did earlier this year, just before we had a bunch of rain. We had 6 months of drought, and we actually see really, really good water quality during droughts around here, just because most of our pollution sources are, again, runoff driven. We also do a lot of education. That's what I'm doing right now, technically. This is an educational program. Thank you all for attending. Most of that is the kids. We know that they're the future and they actually listen. You guys are just trying to get out of here. But I appreciate you being here. We go out, we do adult learning series, we do Paddles on the Water. We spend a lot of time in the classroom, and then we most recently have been leaning into more experiential education. So you guys remember like a field trip you went on as a kid? You probably don't remember like the person that came into your class, but that field trip where you got to like hold a snake or be out in the water or like see an eagle fly, those kinds of education I think is what we're leaning into. So we now have a 40-foot tri-tune on Lake Norman, just upstream of here, and we get classrooms out one at a time on the lake so they can actually see the water from the water's edge. Okay, so quick history lesson now. All of that stuff I said, all the work that we're doing, it's really based on one piece of legislation, and that's the Clean Water Act. And so in 1972, really in the 70s and the late 60s, there was a lot of environmental issues, and that led to bipartisan Congress, can you imagine, passing this amazing bill. Basically everybody got together and said, we need to do something about it. And they created the Clean Air Act, and the Clean Water Act, and the EPA, and Endangered Species Act, etc. And the Clean Water Act is pretty actually a simple piece of legislation. It says all the water out there that's flowing on the surface, it's ours collectively as citizens. Nobody owns it. We all have a right to it. And you get more or less rights if you own the property adjacent. That's state law. But in general, like we as citizens have a right to use that water, and it should be swimmable. That's you guys, right? You should be able to get a swim in that water and not get sick. It should be drinkable. You should be able to like have a drinking water plant right beside it and pull water out and have that for your population basis. It should be fishable. There should be like fish in it that you can eat and safely eat. And that's what the Clean Water Act says. It says all the water should be swimmable, fishable, drinkable. And then the EPA said, all right, we did it. All right, states figure out how to actually implement that. And so it's kind of fun because every state has their own little mini EPA that interprets those things differently. So we have different standards in North Carolina and South Carolina and Virginia and Tennessee, etc. But the goals are always the same, that all of our waters should be able to be used for those key things. And so that's what we do as an environmental advocate. We advocate for swimmable, fishable, drinkable waters. And there's this really fun maybe it's not the right word, there's a provision in the Clean Water Act that says if it's not meeting those standards and somebody is causing that we as the citizens, or in this case a nonprofit representative, can actually litigate them directly. So we don't have to depend on the state to enforce the Clean Water Act. We, or your local river keeper, can actually do that ourselves. And so that's, we try and ask people to clean their stuff up, but if they don't, there is a method in the Clean Water Act for actually to litigate that and then get that pulled off. And so you heard an allusion earlier to the coal ash case. That was a 10-year case where Duke was piling up this very hazardous material right in the banks, it was leaching into the river, and we were able to sue and get them to remove that, which they are now, which is great. Yes. The Catawba River, I'm sorry to say, it's not much of a river anymore. It is a series of highly engineered reservoirs. So there are 11 reservoirs that capture roughly 90% of the total drop from Lake James down to Lake Wateree. We're kind of right there in the middle by Lake Wiley. Clickers don't work, but it's like there. The top of the dams is about the same level as the bottom of the previous dam. So the flow you have tomorrow isn't because it rained much, it's because Duke's opening up the dams. And that's true for basically everything on the Catawba River. There's two really fun little sections that are more free-flowing. They're right after Lake James, so the Bridgewater section, there's a bunch of trout up there, fun Class 2 water. And then just below Lake Wiley, a little bit further after you guys take up, there's another 26-mile section, marathon. And that's where the Rocky Shoals spiralids are, which these guys also lead tours on. It's another wonderful section that you can tube, you can paddle, there's a couple of smaller flat water sections. But the rest of it, it's lakes, it's reservoirs. You might also be surprised to learn there are no natural lakes in this area. Every lake you've ever seen in Piedmont, anywhere, they're all man-made. So we got natural lakes up on the glaciers, we got a couple natural lakes out there on the coast, Carolina Bays, but everything you see in the mountains and the Piedmont around here, they're all man-made. Every little pond, every little reservoir, and so these things have to be actively managed because they're actively filling in. They fill in a lot faster during the floods. So the Great Flood of 1916, again, you saw a whole documentary on it. The actual documentary is wonderful if you get a chance to see the whole thing and hopefully listen to it without this really basic system. It's a really good documentary. And there's so many allusions, like when this happens again, if this happens again, and it just happened again. And it's interesting to see how many things that they foretold. But 1916 was really, really devastating. It was the first major event in this area where it had a population. We finally had some photography, and we had just denuded like the entire state. So we had been coming through and slowly clear cutting every single piece of North Carolina, with the exception of like one or two like fancy areas. If you ever get a chance to go to Joyce Kilmer Park, it's beautiful. That's like one of the only places in the entire state that wasn't clear cut. Everything else was clear cut, and we had this huge double system come in. And all this silt, sand, clay fed into the river, and then basically every single bridge was removed. So really devastating events. But obviously we learned our lesson until 1940. It happened again. We did a little bit better though, so fewer structures were actually removed on this one. So most of the major dams on the Catawba actually held this time. You way over-engineered them. Which is a good thing for everybody downstream of those dams. So it didn't have any major failures of the 1940. But if you look at that map on the left, and then you look at the one of Helene, it's almost identical. Again, 15 to 30 inches of rain dropped right on the Continental Divide, huge flooding west, huge flooding to the east. And then this fun little chart is what Duke came up with, trying to figure out the comparison between that. So this was an engineering paper from the 1950s. And the really crazy number, if you look at the bottom down here, 415,000 cubic feet per second. That was the estimated flow from the Great Flood of 1960. So tomorrow you're going to be out there and it's going to be like 1,200, maybe. So imagine 400,000 times that amount. Like, that was the Great Flood of 1960. The Great Flood, the Deluge of 1940 was also very big, and it depends on where you're on the basin. That was kind of like number 2. Helene's number 3. Helene peaks at about 115,000 cubic feet per second. Again, major flooding, some of our reservoirs, this was the highest recorded level, but those reservoirs weren't there for 1916. And Lake Norman wasn't there in 1940. And that brings us again to Hurricane Helene. It wasn't as bad in most of the Catawba as some of the images you might have seen from the western side. That's because, one, we had much better forecasting. So people knew that this was going to happen, people were able to move around. Our infrastructure is much more resilient than it was for the previous ones. We have learned a few lessons. There's a lot more people, but in general, most of those people are better protected. Still over 100 deaths, which is a real tragedy and catastrophic. But we also had forecasting. We knew this was going to happen. Duke was able to lower those levels on the lakes as much as possible and capture and actually really kind of buffer some of that flow. So for the lakes in South Carolina, it actually wasn't a flood of record for them, which is kind of wild. And that's again because of flood management that really wasn't there in flood forecasting in 1940 and 1960. This is an image from the town of Old Fort though, and a lot of our towns and those areas upstream of the reservoirs and or directly downstream of the reservoirs when they spilled over, those were the areas hit hardest in the Catawba. So there's still cleaning up in Old Fort. Some of these areas will never truly be rebuilt, and some of those areas will take 10, 15 years to rebuild. This is a long-term process. So if you're interested in volunteering, there's a lot of opportunities both with the organization and many others to really make a difference. Speaking of that, if you want some additional resources on like what's the water quality in water, for example, that's something that organization does. We test for fecal bacteria on Lake Wiley in about 60 locations all across the Catawba. You'll be happy to know that we are well below the thresholds for swimming tomorrow. You guys are going to swim anyway, but it's good. It's like less than 10 in most areas. Safe swim standards like 235. Just don't go in the South Fork tomorrow because the South Fork was like 11,000, which is really sketchy. So please, yeah, you guys don't get it. So don't keep going and then turn right and then go up. Like just stop at 10 if you've done it. Please do not go swim in the South Fork tomorrow. You will have diarrhea. Keeping it real. We have a website though. We have an app. You can check all that stuff real time. And then if you want to get involved, you can talk to me afterwards. You can scan a little QR code. You can go to our website, etc. You can vote. All those things are very, very, very important. Again, thank you for being out here today and for utilizing our wonderful resource. Good luck on your stuff.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brandon. All right. Well, that's pretty much our program. How about another big round of applause for the Mountain Holly Historical Society for getting us this facility, getting the cool drone folks out tomorrow, and everything you guys done. The great goodie bags. There are swimmer cookies in those bags. You can see that probably is the most amazing thing. And another round of applause for Brandon. Come on. All right, well, you guys are welcome to hang out here as long as you want. There is a neat little festival in town, which is not far from here if you want to hang out and see the Bon Jovi tribute band. And hang out here, eat and drink. We're going to hang around. If you got any questions, feel free to grab me. So, see you in the morning. Arrive by 6 a.m. for the 7 a.m. start, 5:45 for the early wave at 6:30. All right? Thank you.